Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing a GeForce GTX 1060 3GB model in Hogwarts Legacy. I'm really curious to see if those 3 gigs will actually be able to handle the game, because 2GB cards just can't play this one. At least they can't load textures properly. So this one is the MSI 3GT OCV1 version of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers as usual, and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups. GPU-Z, again, it has 3 gigs of GDDR5 memory, 1152 CUDA cores, which is lower than the 1066GB model. The difference is not only the memory. And over on the left, we're pairing it with a Ryzen 7 5800X3D and 32GB of RAM, just to avoid CPU bottlenecks, and we can extract proper GPU results. So let's get right into it now, shall we? Well, this is not a good sign whatsoever. Come on, mate, are you serious? The 1066GB model can play this game absolutely fine. The 3 gig version can't even load text. It's still on ultra settings though, because I left it on ultra with the GTX 1080 yesterday. So I will apply these settings. Low settings, okay, there it is. That's the texture that I want to see. Just gonna restart the game to make sure that it fully applies. Alright guys, this is it. 1080p TAA on low, no upscaler at the moment. We're also going to utilize FSR2 as usual and the low settings preset. Actually, I'm curious to see what the recommended settings are. And it recommended the low settings, so we're right on point, my friends. Here we go now. Alright, I guess it's slowly loading the textures. Let's not mention the part that our character is half inside of a hill here. Let's ignore that for now, and let's take a look at those textures on the helmet. Sometimes they load in, other times they don't. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. So that means that the 3GB 1060 and other 3GB GPUs will struggle a little bit loading the textures here in this game, even though the VRAM utilization is not really maxed out. It could also be the low settings, but I think I've seen low settings look better than this, honestly, guys. So let's drop down here. Yeah, look at this. Oh, no. Oh no, things are just constantly changing. It could come down to magic, I guess. You could say, well, it's a very magical game, this one, and textures are only disappearing in front of you and loading in sometimes because of aforementioned magic. But I mean, it's the same story as the GTX 960 2GB model. The 4GB model of that card can run this game absolutely fine and load textures absolutely fine and play with 30 plus FPS at 1080p low settings all of the time with good visuals, because low settings actually do look good. Look at that tree right there. It took so long to render. Oh my god, look at that. Look at that, yeah. Believe it or not, low settings actually looks really good if you have 4GB of VRAM or more. I think this can be fixed over some updates and patches, you know. Like, if the developers put some effort in, they could make it work, especially on a 3GB card. Like, 2GB cards, yeah, they're getting really old. You should probably not play AAA games these days with 2 gig GPUs, but this would have been a really capable card here in Hogwarts Legacy. It's averaging 61 FPS there with 39.1% lows. That is a pretty nice experience, right? Especially for a single-player game that doesn't require fast reactions and so on. But because we don't have enough VRAM, it looks like crap, and you can't really enjoy the game like this, honestly. It drops to like 48 at the minimum right there. This is a real shame to see. It does look a little bit better, and it did load in some more textures than the 2GB 960 yesterday, but still, I would never play this game like this, just because the graphics are pretty terrible, you know? What a shame. We're seeing the 1060 3GB model aging pretty poorly because of those 3GB of VRAM, for sure. Even here, 50s, close to 60. Look at the helmet now, it actually loaded in the textures. It's so weird, man. Sometimes it can load things, other times it can't. I guess it's in Hogsmeade, maybe it has a little bit more trouble because we got a ton of textures, you know, with the houses, the people running around. And now here, things are a little bit easier on the VRAM, so it can actually load in the textures on our cape or cloak, our helmet, the broom as well, and the ground doesn't look terrible either, right? Yeah, it's all right. It is how it is supposed to look on low settings, so it's a mixed bag, guys. It's definitely a mixed bag, and I wouldn't really do this. But if you really want to play this game, it is possible on 1063 gig. At least it doesn't stutter, right? In Hogwarts, things are not looking too bad, actually. Like the 960 here didn't even render the ground properly, so at least the 1063 gig can do something about it. It can actually render in the ground, but I need to see it during daytime. Oh boy, that looks absolutely horrible. Okay, it's loading in slowly. It's blinking a lot, actually. Oh boy. But again, guys, at least the ground is all right. I was most scared about that, honestly, because with the 1060, it was kind of unplayable inside of here. Not because the graphics looked terrible, but because the ground was too bright. You couldn't really see things properly because of it, and it was transparent as well, so you could see through walls and stuff. Also, does this work properly? On 2GB cards, you would hear a couple of cats meowing. Like, not a couple, like 10 at the same time. This one, I think this one makes a couple of cats meow at the same time. The other one was 10, so this is 10 times better, or 5 times better, actually. What the heck? My math is not very good these days, my friends, only when it comes to... What is this? Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that, no. No, I don't want that. Oh, come on. So it's better in the 960. Look at this. Sometimes it's unplayable because it's too bright, as I was saying. Hey, at least it who is farting? What the hell? What is happening? What is happening? Well, I don't know, man, but this is not good. Maybe at 720p it will load textures well, but let's try it out with ultra textures first. I'm not sure, it's probably not going to do anything here, because it didn't with the 960. It is the same crap, basically. The helmet is not loading, it is loading things. Yeah, it's the same thing, look at this. It is bad. It is really bad, even on ultra quality textures. The thing is, previously, in an earlier patch of the game, setting the textures to ultra would give you much lower FPS, but it would actually make the textures load on cards that don't meet the VRAM requirement. But yeah, not now. They removed that feature. You know what? We should try it with FSR2, because FSR2 sets the rendering resolution to 720p, so it must be way easier to run. I also set the texture back to low here, and it's morning time. Let's go. Oh, no, it's still gonna be crap, isn't it? Oh, it's a little bit better, maybe. Yeah, it's not glitching out everywhere, right? Like it was previously when we entered this area here. So it might be a little bit more playable, yeah, in terms of visuals, you know, because it was already really playable in terms of FPS. And look at that, this is almost loaded in properly. Alright, let's try to go to Hogsmeade then, because that's where it's really, really VRAM intensive apparently.
I'm most pleased to be included.
Ah, she's very pleased to be included. I am very pleased as well, but I'm not very pleased about these games' graphics on 3GB cards. I honestly was expecting it to actually work properly, especially on the lowest settings, right? But it doesn't really. Again, the helmet is not loading in properly. It's still kind of pulsing in and out, you know, the textures. But hey, the road, for example, is looking okay. Pretty much everything else is looking all right. These rocks as well. Not a problem, and it's now 60 plus FPS. So apparently in 3GB cards, FSR2 on quality not only makes the game look better in terms of sharpness, like it does with all of the other cards that I tested so far, it actually looks better with it enabled than with it disabled in this game, because TAA on the native resolution is forced. You can't disable it, and it's really, really blurry. But you also get better textures than without FSR, because you are running the game at a lower resolution internally, as I told you, 720p basically. And you also get way higher FPS. It's above 60 FPS all of the time so far in Hogwarts and over here in Hogsmeade as well. I was saying, like, you should not play this game with 3GB cards because the textures won't load. And yes, they're still not fully loaded. You know, some of them still look terrible, as you can see right here. They take a while, they pulse in and out, and it's weird. But it's a lot better than native resolution, right? Previously, it was just a bland texture, like a color, and that's it. Now you can see some brickwork at times. If you really, really want to play this game with a GTX 1063GB, I can safely say at this point in the video that go for it. Maybe try to buy the game on sale or something, because paying for full price to have some texture issues and low settings, you know, that's not really that great of a deal in my opinion. But yeah, if you can get it for a cheap price, it's still playable. Look at this. Worst case scenario, it will drop to like 54, and most of the time it will stay above 60, and the texture on the helmet now is okay. That ground looked terrible though. But yeah, mostly the game is 90% good looking right now. Maybe like 75% good looking, okay? So that's good. Previously it was like 10% good looking, so massive improvement here with FSR. I totally did not expect it, honestly, guys. Yeah, it's amazing technology from AMD. I'm so glad. I am so glad this exists to save these old GPUs, guys. Or maybe I am not glad it exists because developers tend to not optimize their games very well these days because they're relying on these upscaling technologies, I guess. It's a double-edged sword, basically. But well, since I have been flying around with the broom, I have not seen any texture issues, aside from maybe some texture popping on the ground, but that's okay, you know. It actually happens in a lot of video games, even when you don't have VRAM issues. So that's fine by me. Look at this. It's good now. Oh, those rocks are looking really bad. But they just rendered in. It's like some really bad LOD, for example. It's not bad, guys. Let's just check it out at native 720p next, just so I can see if anything improves, okay? 720p with it, about the texture loading and stuff, you know? The game is looking really, really soft at the moment. I really don't like it, guys. At this point, I really think like FSR quality, even if it had some issues at 1080p, you should play at 1080p because the FPS were good, right? And here in Hogsmeade, just taking a look at the textures again. Yeah, that looks okay to me. It's not really popping in or pulsing or anything, right? Yeah, these took a while to render in, I guess, but it's so soft that... Okay, these are definitely not loaded in, so it's the same thing, I guess. But again, it's so soft that I just would not play like this, just because now pretty much everything is really soft and blurry, not only some of the textures, right? So it's a terrible resolution to play this at, unless you have like a 750 Ti or a GT 1030. I would never play at 720p. So that's been it for this one, my friends. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.